I'm an architect because I wanted to do something creative, and I really like building, and I like putting things together. So I tried being on site, but it wasn't entirely for me, so architecture was a logical conclusion.
I'm an architect, I think probably for similar reasons of wanting to be creative in what I do. I think one of the things I've really loved about building is that building is a little microcosm of society, that a building involves people with a variety of different skills all coming together to achieve something that not any one of those people could do on their own.
We've sort of come up with three rough kind of principles of how we judge a building. So we look on it whether it's humanistic, and if it's humanistic, then it's obviously something that you want to be in and it works. But then we also say, well, is it romantic? It has to be above just function as such. And then the last thing is it monumental?
I liken our profession in a way to being like a chef. You know, when a person tastes a good meal, they just taste that it's good. And our job is to try and deconstruct why that's good and find all the bits about why it's good.
So for me, sustainability, we tend to look at this notion of how much energy you use in the house to be comfortable. And for a lot of people, it's sort of between 20 and 27 degrees is what they consider comfortable. So there's a whole series of methods in order to get the interior temperature somewhere in that range.
I think sustainability to me is, it's an elastic concept because nothing is entirely sustainable or entirely not sustainable. So I guess our question is, how do you make whatever you're doing more sustainable than the normal, more sustainable than what you've done before?
Sustainability to us is about really designing only for what you need, to use as little as possible. I guess sort of a theme to consume less and to consume wisely would be an overall idea.
To us, sustainability does mean being efficient, building small, building only what you need, don't build just big for the sake of it. Really clever choice of materials, and thoughtfulness about the way in which energy is both used in the building construction and in its life cycle. Our choice of materials is about sort of narrowing down the field of inquiry during the process. So we start with big picture questions like heavy or light materials, and then we go to finer questions like is it going to be timber or steel? And then if it's timber, what type of timber, and why would you use these particular kinds of timber, and drill right down as the design process evolves.
When it comes to specifying timbers, we would look at timber resource websites like Wood Solutions, which we find really handy because they look at species and they recommend what species, applications. Black butt's very good for decking, for example, or you can use it for windows. So that form of information is extremely important, so we get the right species for the right application.
We really love timber. When we're specifying timber, it's one of the things that is probably most dear to our hearts. It's one of the joyous parts of designing a building, and I often feel when I'm looking at timber, I'm like a child in a lolly shop trying to establish between things that I really want to have in the building. So, when we're choosing timber, it will come down to aesthetic considerations such as colour and also where it's sourced from. I think we're very heavily invested in the idea of using local Australian hardwoods because they're great and because they're beautiful and because they perform well from a fire perspective, from a structural perspective. Aesthetically, they're great, and we have so many high durability class timbers locally.
I think clients love the warmth and the humanistic quality of timber. The fear that may come about is sometimes with maintenance, and we use a lot of information from websites to show what they need to do, what to look after.
If I was speaking to a young architect about why they should use timber, I'd say that as well as being an organic material, it's really beautiful. It's a really workable material. One of the things that from a building process point of view is really lovely is that you can cut timber and you can make it fit the site and you can make things, and carpenters are great people to work with. I'd say do research, talk to people who work with timber, do some research online and actually find out what is available in your area that is going to be a really sustainable choice as well.
So how we use timber in a residential way traditionally, or at the moment, has been post and beam. And then you started to sort of look at plywood, which is more like sheet materials. The new technologies of more massive types of timber, like cross-laminated timber, actually shifts a structural idea from post and beam to kind of plate technology. And no one's sort of looking at the moment as to how that might change or shift spatial relationships.
I think the use of CLTs and new timber technologies will undoubtedly change the design process quite dramatically, and actually part of the perhaps time lag in the uptake of new technologies will be around design professionals getting their heads around actually what those implications are.